Welcome to the Flooring Podcast with Mike Harris, the show where we cover new construction, restoration, and everything to do with flooring in commercial construction. Now here's your host, Mike Harris.
Welcome to the Flooring Podcast, all. I'm Mike Harris. We're here today, as usual, in Pod 617 Studios in lovely Westwood, Massachusetts. Thanks to David Yaz, our producer, for all he does for us. If you want your own podcast, visit pod617.com. The flooring world, we have another special guest today, Jared Colombo from JC Floors. Jared, welcome.
Hey, Mike. Glad to be here.
That's good. Glad that you were able to come. Jared Colombo, is that are you part of that Colombo crime family, or?
I really regret I'm not. I'm just part of the flooring.
Oh, that's too bad. Then we could have gone a whole different way with this podcast.
I know.
If that was the case. The other question is, we've had some people up here. David Jerry had some great Italian nicknames. Any good Italian nicknames?
No. My friends just called me Juice when I was a little kid, so that's the only nickname I had growing up. Nothing flooring related or nothing meatball related or anything.
Juice ain't bad, though. I was always Harry for my last name, Harris. So
that makes sense.
Always nice to have a little nickname.
Yeah.
Jared, you were a family business.
Yes.
JC Floors. Your dad started the business.
Yes.
You, your brother, your sister, your mother are all involved now.
Absolutely.
Let's just talk a little bit about how JC got going and how your dad started the business.
Sure. My father was working for Somerville Floors in the early 80s for a gentleman named Mike Tavarella, and he was planning to close his doors, and my father went to him and said, could I inherit a couple of your accounts? And he was more than happy to do that because he was closing his doors. From there, he incorporated JC Floors in 1989, and then he bought some warehouse space and an office, and slowly we grew from a small East Boston shop to bigger and bigger and bigger. We were in East Boston for a number of years, probably about 15 years, and when we completely outgrew that space, we moved to Wilmington. We did 10 years in Wilmington, and again, outgrew that space, and we finally found a location in Billerica that was big enough for us to grow into again, and that's where we currently are.
That's good organic growth. You don't want to grow too fast.
Yeah.
Was your dad on his own at that time when he started the business, or?
In the very beginning, he was. He was on his own, and then in the 90s, he started adding office staff so he could estimate more work, and obviously you need some accounting staff to pay the men. Sure. So in East Boston, he had several employees in the office, and like you said, as he grew, we had to keep expanding, adding estimators, adding project managers, and accounting help. So it's really organically grown from probably a 2 or a 3-man operation to 15 to 20 probably we currently have in the office.
And I know Ed Higgins is still involved with the company, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And his name is a big name in the industry. Let's talk a little bit about Ed and what he does now and how he got involved.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Ed's long been a major player in the flooring industry in Boston.
Family-wise, right? Higgins, yeah?
Yeah. He ran a division of the MF Higgins, the Boston side, for a number of years. In the late 80s, early 90s, he had closed the doors for that division, and he was looking for a new role. He probably didn't want to be the head of the company, and he stepped right into project management with us, and he's been with us for probably close to 30 years, and he still works a lot of hours and a lot of time.
Yeah, I know. I talked to him. I know he's in Naples right now. He spends a few months down there, and he mentioned that his wife keeps bothering him to spend more time down there, but he can't help himself but keep working.
Absolutely.
And I asked him to come on the pod. He's considering it. Yeah. So I said, Ed, you got a great story, great history. And he was like, I do? I said, yeah, you do. Then why don't you come on and tell it? So maybe we'll have Ed on soon, hopefully.
Yeah, I would love for him to come on. He really loves, he knows everything about flooring. He's just, when you've been in that long, you've seen every situation,
Sure.
and you know how to handle a number of crazy jobs, and he's a wealth of information.
Now, your mother, your brother, your sister are all involved in the business. What is everybody's role?
My father is now the CEO, and my mother's the president.
Is your father still full-time, 100%? Is he backing out a little bit?
He's slowed down a little bit. My younger sister has two young baby girls, not babies.
Okay.
But she has two young girls, so my father is babysitting with them one day a week.
Grandchildren will do that too.
I think it's the only day of the week he really enjoys. But he still, I mean, he loves work, so it gives him a nice dynamic where he can have some time with the family and then some time in the office and interacting with everybody, contractors and the family. So he's probably in a good 3 to 4 days a week and the other time with the family.
Yeah. And your brother and sister and mother, what's their roles?
We're all in the office as much as possible. My brother, my sister, and I are full-time in the office. Night and day, we're working a lot, keeping the wheels turning, and my mother's overseeing pretty much everything we do. So she's involved very, very closely as well. My brother's primarily in the project management side of things. I'm primarily in the office side, estimating, buyouts, and Olivia's primarily in ordering, purchasing. Purchasing.
And JC, I've always known as let's call him a mid-size union installer. Yeah. Not doing high rises, but doing anything kind of in between. And why don't you explain the typical type of jobs you guys do?
We do a lot of tenant fit-outs, so I mean, as you can imagine, in downtown Boston, there's constant churn with law firms and finance companies. And right now, lab sciences is a huge one, where these companies are just moving into office spaces and leasing a space for 2 years or 3 years. And when they switch companies and a new one comes in, they need to redesign that office to their preferences, and we help.
What has changed since COVID? I know since COVID happened and people are working from home, I know they're starting to get back a little bit into the offices, and I know some of the occupancy rates are very high in, let's say, Boston, where I've also heard they're bringing in apartments into old office buildings. Have you guys been involved in any of that?
We've seen that. We've been involved in the bidding. I haven't seen many of the full office to apartment conversions completed yet. There's several on the street that are being bid at this point. It's going to happen because there's so much vacancy and there's a need for more living space in Boston. So that will happen. In terms of changes, we see a lot of amenity changes. These buildings are trying to improve their amenities, so there's a lot more lounges and cafe space and gyms and things that people, when they get to the office, they really enjoy using, and it makes the day a lot more work-life balance that they can enjoy.
Yeah, no, that's I've heard that. I actually was involved in a job for in Cambridge. Thanks, Dave.
Take your time.
Job for
Amgen, Moderna.
Now, one of the big tech firms,
Biogen.
I don't mean that kind of tech firm. I mean not Gmail, but
Google. Yeah, we've done work with
Google.
Yeah, they have a lot of space in Cambridge.
Yeah. All right, Dave.
Yeah, just pick it up wherever you like.
Yeah, we did a work with Google, and they were overlooking the Charles River. Yeah. They had tremendous amenity spaces. They had a beautiful gym. They had a 24-hour cafeteria that people could come in and out all day. Yeah, it was amazing, and it's a lot different than from years ago when we were into an office, basically, which is great. You got to give the people what they want.
Absolutely, the office spaces today are state of the art. They're so modern, sleek. They're really amazing spaces.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about you personally. Sure. You grew up where?
I grew up in Peabody.
Grew up in Peabody, and you live now in
Westford.
In Westford. How long have you been in Westford?
5 years.
5 years. And I know you had a little bit of an issue getting into Westford.
Yeah.
That COVID story. Why don't you tell us that a little bit?
So I unfortunately, when we were planning to move, it was right around the time that COVID had hit. So we were stuck in that influx of people looking to buy a home. And Westford was a desirable location. So we were going every weekend, falling in love with the house, putting in an offer, and losing a couple days later. So we lost in the teens. It was like 14 or 15 houses, and we finally got one. It's a dream home. We couldn't be happier, and it was a stressful and
How long did that take?
It was probably 15, 16 months.
Wow.
It was a long process.
I know a lot of people were going through that, and it was crazy that people were just throwing bidding numbers, throwing above asking price bids, and it was, well, as we all know, COVID was a different crazy time.
It was, yeah. The process, even to go in open houses, you had to stand out in the driveways with the mask on, and only a couple people could go into the house at a time. It was so different, and it was so difficult to do the process, but we were all doing it together.
How'd you maneuver and work at that time? What was the work atmosphere like?
Our whole office was working from home. I remember it was early March, I think 2020, and we told everyone to go home. And I think I said in the first email, let's reconvene in 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And then I think like a week or two later, I was like, let's reconvene in 2 months.
Yeah.
And it just kept happening that way, where we stopped checking in because it was going to be 6 months or a year. And when we finally came back in 21, everyone worked from home for over a year.
Yeah.
When we finally came back, everybody was pretty excited about coming back. I think there's only so much time you can spend at home, and you want kind of that social interaction back.
I think that's key, and I think a lot of people felt that, I love working from home, but how productive are you when there's so many other things you can be doing at home? And I think they miss that social interaction, and
Absolutely.
Sitting across from somebody and discussing an issue is a lot different than doing it via Zoom, as we all found out because we all Zoomed our brains out then.
Absolutely, yeah.
And also so you grew up in Peabody. Where you got into high school and college? Where?
Yeah, so I grew up in Peabody, went to Peabody High, had a lot of good friends there, and I was very fortunate that my 2 best friends and I got into Boston University together. So that made the decision pretty easily. That was a good school I wanted to go to, and my best friends were going. So the 3 of us went, and from there we got a great group of friends from BU, and after that, it's just that we started having families.
Well, I remember talking to you back in the day, when you were early in the business, and you had mentioned that you went to BU, and I had mentioned I went to Northeastern, so we were natural rivals, and you lived, I can't remember the name of the dorm, but of course you did, overlooking the Charles. What was the name of that dorm?
I lived in Warren Towers for freshman and sophomore year, and then I lived in Student Village for junior year. Student Village is the newer one. It's very nice.
The new one overlooking the Charles River,
absolutely.
Right? Because we actually did quite a bit of Ardex in there when they were building it, and I remember thinking that this was way too nice for college kids to be living here, and I remember you saying, I'll probably never have this view again in my life, and
right.
You were probably right.
Absolutely, yeah. It's what would be a very expensive apartment, and you're sitting during college, and
in the city, yeah. Now, also too, you were very involved in high school and with sports, and not to say that you were a young hustler, but it sounds like you were a young hustler back in the day. What'd you do to keep yourself busy and make a few bucks?
When we were young, I had a paper route, my brother and I, so we had the biggest one we could have. We kept adding people, so we had a big paper route. On the weekends,
worked together with your brother?
Yeah, it was the 2 of us because it was really big, and so we usually split it up and kind of do two areas.
And now you're the older brother, right?
Yeah.
By how many years?
A year and a half.
Year and a half. Okay.
Yeah. So Nick and I would ride our bikes and deliver papers every day after school. When we weren't doing that, we were mowing lawns for cash and shoveling driveways for cash and.
All great experiences.
All great experiences. We would help out there was a baseball park right down the street. We'd help out down the park and help the concession stand or announcing. So, we were always trying to make a few bucks.
And I assume that you were working summers with your dad in the business?
Absolutely, yeah. He would bring us into the warehouse, and we would do whatever we could. We stage deliveries. We'd peel the tacky stuff off the back of the carpet tile. So the guys do whatever we could do to save the guys some time in the field so they could be productive. We would help out every chance we got.
So now also too, you have 2 young boys, and I'm assuming they have paper routes and they're out there shoveling. What's the story there?
They're not doing anything in terms of work yet. They're
How
focused.
Old are they?
They're 10 and 8.
They're still a little young.
Yeah, they're young. They're focused on playing games, hanging out with friends, sports. They like sports and video games.
Yeah,
so a lot of that stuff.
No, that's great. I'm joking about the work thing there because back in the day, that's what we did, and that's what you did. But the young families don't allow their kids can't be out of eyes length.
Right.
Parents freak out because it's a shame, but that's the way it is nowadays. Where like you're probably the same. I mean, had a bicycle and off I went, and parents had no idea where I was.
Yeah, of course.
All day, all night, and make sure you're home when the streetlights come on.
Yep.
You said you went to BU. You got some great friends. Talk a little bit about you got some interesting trips you've taken over the years.
Yeah, of course. So after we graduated, my good friend Dewey threw a bachelor party for his older brother Jeff, and it was in Las Vegas. So it was a big deal. Me, Dewey, and Jim and I, 3 of the BU guys, we went with him, and from there it was just one big bachelor party after another. Every single one. That was when we were young. So slowly we started hitting the age where we were getting married, and we did Vegas and Vegas and Vegas, and then we said we have to do someplace different. So we did Austin, Texas, and caught a football game. We did Miami, and we did Nashville, and for mine and Dewey's, we did New Orleans. So we've done a lot of the fun spots, and they're great weekends. Expensive, but a lot of fun.
Yeah, hate to go back this far, but back in my day, we used to rent the KFC, have a case of beer and Chinese food.
Yeah.
And that was our bachelor party back in the day, and it was a good time.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then my kids, who are your age, started traveling on these crazy, vacations.
Yeah, absolutely.
They weren't bachelor parties, they were vacation, and I don't know if it was a mistake. I made the decision to go, when my oldest son got married, to Vegas, to those, went on his bachelor party, and went to those pool parties, because that's what they do in Vegas now. And I went one day, and went the next day, and the next day after about a half an hour, I said, I think I'm the oldest guy in this pool here, and I feel like a creeper here. So I left and went back to my hotel and actually had a pretty good day.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it worked out real well.
This episode of the Flooring Podcast is sponsored by Laticrete, a global leader in construction solutions. From tile setting materials to concrete floor prep, patching, leveling, and waterproofing. If you're building it, fixing it, or trying to make it actually last, Laticrete's got you covered. For more information, contact Peter McKeon at pfmckeon@laticrete.com. That's PFMCKEON at LATICRETE.com. Laticrete, proven on the job site, trusted around the world.
Yeah. Now, let's chat a little bit about business in the industry. You grew up in the business.
Yeah, of course.
Grew up in the industry. A lot of people that I've had on the podcast so far are family business. Now, you went right from college right to work.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you probably graduated on a Friday and started full-time on a Monday.
That's pretty much exactly right.
How has that been? How's that worked out for you? How's it helped you? Your brother did the same thing?
Yeah. I think it's helped a lot. Like you said, I graduated in 06, and Father put me right in the warehouse. I was driving trucks and staging deliveries, and I mean, I knew the materials, but I was really learning the materials and the adhesives and just understanding everything that was coming in and going out. So that was great, and I did that for a number of years. And then we kind of needed me to step into a more important role or a different role. So I stepped up into the office and started estimating. And from there, really learning the estimating process and developing relationships so that I could fully estimate and then do buyouts. So I talk with a lot of the general contractors and negotiate jobs and then help the jobs run through
start to finish.
Start to finish, yeah.
Yeah, you as we talked about you coming on the podcast, you made that decision instead of going to law school.
Yeah, that's true.
You could be a big-time lawyer now.
I could have been, yeah.
Yeah, but you're in the flooring business, so that's better.
Exactly.
So, and what was your brother's path into the flooring business?
It was very similar. Nick went to Providence, and when he graduated, he stepped right into the warehouse like I did, and so he was in the vans and trucks and driving a lot in the beginning, and I think that might have been part of the reason for me going up into the office was then he could segue into the running the warehouse, and I can move upstairs. So it was kind of the exact same path. He stepped into the warehouse, learned that part of the job, and then I moved upstairs, and then slowly we hired for his position and moved him upstairs and just continued the same.
Now, how's business been? I mean, the first quarter is over, and with the blink of an eye, and all of a sudden it's going to be summertime, and it's going to be half over. And how's business? How's the outlook for the year? Talk about that a little bit.
I think business is good. There's a lot of bidding, so that means there's a lot of jobs breaking. There's a lot of bidding, and we're winning our fair share. So we're steady. The backlog is good. It could always be a little bit better. I think that's kind of the tone of the whole industry for everybody. But there's enough. We see enough, and we hear about enough work that's breaking and being designed that I don't see any lull that's going to negatively impact us for a while. So I like the direction.
Good. And you typically are how many guys you have in the field on any day?
I'd say we range from anywhere from 30 to 60. So when we're slow, we might have 30 to 35, and when we're busy, on the busier months, we can be up in the high 50s or 60s.
And you do ceramic tile also?
Absolutely, yeah.
So that's a big part of it. So you're 2168 in Local 3.
Exactly.
Your two big unions. Okay.
Yes.
You're on the board of NEFCA.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk a little bit about NEFCA, what NEFCA is, and what your role on the board is?
So NEFCA is an organization that was created to unite the union flooring companies, and so they could collaborate with the union. It's all of the flooring companies. NEFCA's an organization for all of the flooring companies. We collaborate and operate together to raise awareness for the union. We want to increase the enrollment in the union, get men to join the union. So we partner with the union to sponsor. They do a lot of fun events. We participate with those. We sponsor a lot of flooring things like good causes. There's the FCIF that we sponsor where we donate to that they support people who are in the industry and could use some charitable help. I just really like it because it's the most important people in the union flooring companies. So whether it's Dave Ruggieri or Andy DeCristoforo or Stephen Cloud and Mark Marama, I don't want to leave anyone out.
Yeah.
All of them, they're pillars of the industry, and they're doing such a great job running their company. I like being in a room with them and just learning how they do it and how they've been so successful doing it.
Yeah, you're the young guy in the room, right?
I am. Yeah, tell me that a lot. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's the only way to learn is from our, hate to say it, from our elders, but absolutely,
Yeah.
especially those names of those people you mentioned are all running great companies. You know?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, and even if you're not on the board, the leaders of all the companies are still closely involved. Like Dan Auditori is very closely involved, and I'm exposed to the whole group, and they're all unbelievable, friendly, forthcoming with information. It's just a great group to be involved with.
How is the union developing young talent? I know one of the problems in the whole construction industry overall, every trade it's getting old.
Yeah.
And people are retiring, and there's not the influx of youth that there used to be. So is NEFCA involved in that part of it also?
We work with the union to sponsor their efforts to do it. The union takes the bulk of that work. They're going into local trade schools, they're going into high schools,
Yep.
and they're advertising. And we're on a job out in Worcester, and they're having a labor, like a trade show in a couple weeks. So we're going to partner with the union, and we're going to have a table there and just
promote
and try to get some interested parties, some information that they can have, that they can say, this is a great idea, something I can do and make a real good career path for myself.
Right, and I think a lot of young people don't realize what a good career path they can make, what benefits the union offers, the salaries they offer, and the not guaranteed steady work, but it's pretty much steady work all the time.
People who've been in the union for the last 20 years have worked pretty regularly, and they're developing and socking away money for their pensions, and they're going to be in a good position.
Now, also, education-wise for you, are you involved in any kind of groups, any kind of buying groups with JC?
We're a member of the AHSG, American Home Services Group.
AHSG, okay.
Yeah, it took me a second to get the acronym correct. Yeah, so they're an outfit that, same as all the other ones, if you buy materials from the vendors they have relationships with, there's a rebate. So it's just a nice group. I'm pretty excited. I'm going to their annual conference in San Antonio in September. So that'll be a great chance to meet some of the players in the organization, and I think there's a lot of conferences and speakers at that. So it'll be a nice learning experience.
I think it's very beneficial for you to go to those type of conferences. Yeah. And typically the benefit, we used to say when we did Artex training, people would come down to Pittsburgh, we would say, you're probably going to benefit more sitting next to the guy from Georgia and talking to him at lunch, figuring out what he does in his market compared to just listening to a guest speaker. But obviously the guest speaker is important too. But you do collaborate and you learn a lot there, which is, I think, is a tribute to you and very beneficial. So I would recommend being a older statesman to go as many of those as you can.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm trying.
Because some companies don't send their people to things like that. They think they're more beneficial for them to be working when it's, in my opinion, a lot more beneficial for them to be out there learning, bringing some knowledge back to the company.
That's exactly right, especially in this time with all the AI changes and everything that's going on. I want to gain the knowledge to learn how we can best learn how we can best deploy it into our business and allow us to benefit.
Speaking of AI, I mean, I'm learning about AI all the time, but obviously I'm not deeply involved, except for when I talk into my phone and ask it a question. Right. Is AI, you think, is going to be able to help your company? Yeah. How is it going to do that?
Yeah, I've talked with a few companies, and I think there's going to be a lot of benefit to estimating. There's programs out right now that you can load a plan for a floor, and it can actually basically put the flooring that goes in each room quickly.
Wow.
Almost instantly. So it scans and understands the layout of the floor, and then it populates it with all the information that's going to be used in those rooms. So it's just a matter of getting it. You might have to craft it a little bit so it fits your needs, but it's coming where I think it's gonna help a lot in the office.
Well, I can visualize looking at that picture of that finished floor that can help you guys bid the job that says, okay, and I'm able to save some time here, or I have to add some time here because of the curves, because of the cuts, because of the cove base. AI is going to be involved in every business.
It has to be, yeah.
No doubt about it. All right, Dave, I think we're getting to Wednesday's question, where we try to get a little content into the podcast.
You want answers?
You want answers? You came to the right place. It's time for Wednesday's question on the Flooring Podcast.
So, Jared, Wednesday's question today to you is, I've always heard about change orders in the business, and every once in a while you'll be in Florida or someplace and you'll see a nice big boat that has the name of its change order. And
of course,
back in the day, would say, somebody would say, oh, no, your competitor took that job just for the change orders. Can you explain to our audience change orders, how that comes about, and what is a change order?
Okay. Change orders are on every job. There's unforeseen things or simply changes that happen that the owner and architect say, can you review this and price this change? It could be something as simple as we've decided to use a different material in this room, or it could be something major like after the demo, the floors are in really bad shape.
We always loved change orders because from the Artex point of view, that was the big one right there. Right. They ripped up a floor and they didn't realize it was an inch of stuff they had to take up. And
absolutely.
They had to put something back. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No problem. Yeah. So unfortunately, I mean, change orders are probably one of the bigger pain points in the industry. Schedules are so tight. There's not proper time to ask questions during the bidding process. There's not time to review the subfloor before we win a job. So GCs are in a difficult spot where they have to carry allowances or rough numbers for a lot of scope that just can't be defined.
Right.
And then when you win the job and you start getting into the construction, you really are going to learn what's needed to do the job. The jobs that have no change orders, the ones that you win the job and you do submittals and approvals and then you just do the job, those are few and far between. I enjoy them because it's quick and easy.
Cleaner.
Yeah, the GCs tend to, I feel like they think that, like you said, we're trying to win jobs and change order them to the death, but it's a lot of work. And the margins aren't great, and it's a lot of back and forth on change orders. It's just a lot of scrutiny, which I understand, but we're not trying to make money as much as we're trying to deliver a good job that the client's going to love and it's going to perform correctly as it's supposed to. And we're just trying to cover the costs necessary to do that.
Yeah, I think change orders, the thinking of change orders that I explained is kind of old school.
Yeah.
And like you said, and the biggest problem with change orders that I've heard in the industry is if you don't have that slip, you don't have that paperwork, you're not getting paid for it, and it's for work you've already done.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's your super on the job that got a signed slip that God knows where it is today, and
of course.
it's never going to be found, and that's just coming out of your pocket. So I think the days of having that big boat with change order on it is gone.
I agree.
It's a lot cleaner. And probably AI can clean that up and take care of that a lot better than the poor super on the job.
Yeah, there's a lot of new software where you can have a lot of it done electronically.
Yep.
So if there's something signed in the field, you can get a receipt of it in the office. So it kind of covers that so that those slips don't get missed. But yeah, it's definitely still a sticking point for a lot of jobs.
Yeah. All right, good. Also, too, now we're getting to our famous 3 questions.
We got important business before you go. It's Mike's famous 3 questions to finish the show.
All right, we always start with our first famous 3 questions. I don't know why we do that, but it's a thing now. So you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, these are very personal, so hope they're not too personal. What's your favorite ice cream?
It's going to be coffee turtle.
Coffee turtle, Dave. What does turtle mean?
It's kind of like chocolate. So they take coffee ice cream and then they put a combination of caramel and little chocolate and nut bits. So like turtles are like an old.
I know the old
dessert.
chocolate turtles.
Yeah, like an old. So I think they're just mashing that up and throw it in the coffee ice cream. There's a ice cream place right around the corner from me in Westford called Kimball's, and they have it. So it's easy for me to get it whenever I want, and yeah, it's good.
Mike, the flooring podcast judges are going to rule that coffee turtle is within the coffee family. This continues a shocking trend, which now has coffee having risen from the basement all the way into number 2, just behind cookies and cream at 4 total responses.
That's right.
Coffee coming in at second. Wow. What a run
for a big run.
A big run. It's the last. I think the last 3 guests have all picked coffee.
Wow.
That's just a stunning turn of events. It's still March, isn't it? March Madness. It's crazy.
They need that extra little kick at the end of the day.
Help the dogs to be apart.
All right. Speaking of kick, what's your favorite Dunkin's order?
Great question. I prefer a large hot coffee, little bit of skim, so usually like 2 skim and a lot of swirl. I know it's a little bit embarrassing, but
What's swirl?
it's like a sugary, tasty mixture they put in. There's all different flavors. Peppermint mocha is the one I get around Christmas. In the fall season, I get pumpkin. So it just makes the coffee have a really good taste.
It's seasonal.
It's seasonal.
Okay.
Yeah, they have a lot French vanilla. I just like it to have a little bit of a good taste.
Okay. And the third question is, what is your favorite ethnic food to eat, and what's your favorite restaurant?
My favorite ethnic food to eat would probably be.
It's got to be Italian. Come on, Mom.
Yeah, I guess I can't. Yeah, Italians.
Don't let me put words in your mouth now.
It's tough. That's a good question. My favorite to eat might be Indian food. I eat a lot of, my wife and I, so my wife was in Somerville. I met her when she was going to school at Tufts, and then we lived in Medford for a little while, and there's just a lot of good ethnic food around there. So we got a lot of Indian food then, and we still really enjoy it when we get it. It's not as frequently because the young boys, they're not on board yet.
They're not into curry?
No, they're not into curry. They're mostly pasta and pizza kids.
Sure. Chicken fingers.
Chicken fingers, right. That's their steady diet of those 3 things. But Indian food's great. When I'm with my friends, it's a lot of Mexican. We eat a lot of burritos. Okay. So it's a little bit of everything, but I guess it just depends on who I'm with. And
all right, what about the restaurant? Favorite restaurant?
Favorite restaurant. It's going to have to be something local. We go to Tavern in the Square a lot with my family. My wife and I, when we were dating, we went to Cheesecake Factory all the time.
Cheesecake Factory?
Yeah, the menu's got a million things, which drives some people crazy. Yeah. But I just said, like, well, if I wanted a burger, I could have a burger. If I wanted a salad, I could have a salad. Yep. I'd get eggs there sometimes. So it was diverse and fun. So we'd go there a lot.
So you had mentioned to me earlier that FBI, full-blooded Italian.
Yeah, that's correct.
So I'm hoping that your mother is closing her ears that you didn't say Italian food because you know how they get.
Yeah. My grandparents, and I mean they cooked. We had the sauce on the stove and pasta on the weekends. Yeah, we did it all growing up. So I definitely, ate pasta a couple times a week and variations of that for Italian food. We still do Italian at holidays and everything, but yeah.
You don't do every Sunday, the Sunday meals?
We can't get together that much. I would love to, but unfortunately with the way kids are busy in sports
and everything,
I'm so busy.
You're eating French fries a lot.
Exactly. Yeah.
I know. Myself growing up, my mom, God rest her soul, was from Nova Scotia and wasn't a great cook, but I never missed a meal, as you can see.
Yeah.
And I grew up in the city and had a couple of friends on my street, one being Greek, one being Italian. And I used to walk into their houses and smell that food. It was like, what is that smell? And they would always say, Mike, come on over. But you're a big guy. You can eat. Even if I just had dinner, I could still eat another meal.
Absolutely, yeah,
of course. Just amazing spices and amazing tastes, and I just loved it. Thank God I wasn't Italian because I'd be 400 pounds.
It's a battle. It's a lot of work.
It's a battle, but obviously you're in pretty good shape. I like to see that. I know you're. One thing we didn't mention too is you're coaching for 20 years in soccer.
Yeah.
As we run down at the end of this podcast here, obviously you've been an athlete your whole life. Congratulations. Keep it up.
I'm trying.
I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. This has been a very good one. And again, the family business, keep it up. Keep being a dad, doing the right things.
Trying.
Thanks for coming on.
I couldn't be happier.
Thanks, Jared.
Jared, do you want to mention contact info for your company so people know how to find you?
Yeah, sure. You reach out to me at Jared, Jared, @jcfloors.net. That's my email. I'm always in the office, and if you shoot me an email, I will respond. Happy to help.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Jared. Thanks for being a fantastic guest on the Flooring Podcast, and thank you for that shocking vote in favor of coffee ice cream. And I'm going to go get myself some turtles just when I leave the studio today. But thank you for listening to the Flooring Podcast. You can find the Flooring Podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you find your pods. We'll see you next time, and thanks again for listening to the Flooring Podcast.